Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey is always top shelf. Whether you got your start as a Dynasty veteran, a Millbury survivor, or you were born into the Church of Trotz, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, here are your eclectic hosts, Sean Cuthbert and Christian Arnold.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, January 16th, 2022. Coming at you live from the Hockey Night in New York studios on Long Island. Another stupendous show coming up for you tonight. Andrew Gross of Newsday will join us. My name is Sean Cuthbert. With me, as always, is the illustrious, the grand, the magnificent, all lies, Christian Arnold. How are you?
Wondering where that was going.
You?
That was all too nice. There was the punchline as always.
How we doing, pal?
I'm good, Shawnee. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. Ready to talk some hockey now that some's been played by the New York Islanders, for better or worse.
A nice change of pace.
Yes, it's nice that they're back. But before we get into that, I want to remind everybody that we are happy to be presented by R.J. Daniels American Bar and Grill, located at 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center. It is the best place to catch the Isles when you can't be at the game. Head down for great food and great drink specials with plenty of HD TVs and in-game sound. And also happy to be sponsored by Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, 217 Carlton Avenue in East Islip, and of course, UBS Arena at Belmont. They're an official partner of the New York Islanders. Make sure you check out the menu at BlueLineDeli.com for all their great offerings. And happy to be sponsored by Tide Technology, a voice-over IP company providing phone services for businesses across the country. If you're tired of dealing with long hold times and the impersonal service of companies like Spectrum, Optima, and Verizon, give Tide Technology a call at 516-856-7800 for 3 free months of service. And of course, happy to be sponsored by Oyster Bay Brewing Company, creator of the Barn Rocker Session Ale, available at 12 locations at the Islanders' brand new home in UBS Arena, and even more distributors across the country from coast to coast. You can also visit the tap room at 36 Audrey Avenue in Oyster Bay 7 days a week to sample all their fantastic beverages. And of course, a reminder to get your questions in for Questions Brewing. So, Mr. Arnold, the Islanders have finally returned to action with a pair of games, one against the Devils, one against the Capitals, one win, one loss. One went well, one did not. What do you say, CA?
Well, I wouldn't say one went well and one didn't. I would say both didn't go well, and the Islanders managed to get a point against a lesser team in the New Jersey Devils.
Two points.
2 points, sorry.
2 points, yeah. Pretty well, yeah.
2 points against a lesser team in the New Jersey Devils, which it took heroics for Matthew Barzal to even win that game in the first place. So I don't know if I would say that was a great game that was played either. In fact, when you look at the numbers and the number of giveaways and the number of shots, it was an almost identical game, but the opponent was much different. I mean, you're talking about the Washington Capitals with Alexander Ovechkin, a very, high-flying, high-powered offensive team, and the New Jersey Devils, which are sputtering here I guess you could almost say the second half of the season. So, not a terrible start to
no.
Them being back into the game and back playing again, but certainly not anywhere near where they needed to be at all.
Yeah, well, they kind of need to be at a 8 or above, I think, from here on out for the rest of the season. So again, I guess the question comes back to, did the break help them? Did the break hurt them? And they get the win against the Devils again, against a team that they literally have to beat if they want to get anywhere close to the playoff positions anymore. But I tweeted before the game on yesterday against the Capitals saying, hey, it's great that you beat the Devils, but you got to beat the Caps too. Teams like the Caps anyway, because the teams like this are going to be littered throughout the schedule. You know how many points and how many games they are behind all these teams ahead of them, particularly the one they're really focusing on, which is the Boston Bruins. And you're going to have to be able to beat these top teams. So, yeah, it's true. It's nice that they got 2 points against the Devils, even if it wasn't the prettiest. But again, 2 points, regulation win. Good way to come back from the break if you're looking at the results. But yesterday, not as good. I mean, look, the doors weren't blown off them. It was a close game scoreboard-wise. It was a 1-0 game all the way through. They gave up the empty netter later on.
Right.
But you look at the chances, you look at the shots that they didn't get on net, and obviously there's still a lot to be desired. And the fact that there isn't a lot of time for them to kind of work out these kinks, they got to just start winning games. So it kind of leaves you with a little bit maybe of a melancholy feeling coming out of these 2 games this week because, yeah, they got to win. But, 500 hockey isn't going to do it for them. They need to get into more games. That'll start tomorrow. They have an opportunity against the Flyers with back-to-backs.
Right.
They're not doing too well either. And it's an opportunity for them to get back up to 500. But, yeah, the bottom line is things got to get better really quick. Otherwise, the eulogy for the season may come sooner than we all like.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that the Islanders are, and at the very least, if they're not, they need to be in desperation mode at this point. There's no two ways about it. The Islanders need to win hockey games any way they can. And yes, again, they got the win against the Devils, but you need to win a game against the Washington Capitals. You need to win games against good teams. The Philadelphia Flyers, we've talked about in the past, the Flyers, for whatever reason, have always traditionally give the Islanders fits regardless of the standings.
More or less, yeah.
You look at 2 games like they played last week against the Capitals and the Devils, and, if that pattern stays consistent, you have 2 games against the Philadelphia Flyers, one on Long Island and one in Philadelphia. And I'm very curious to see how those 2 games play out, considering Philadelphia probably is in desperation mode too, because their season is essentially, kind of being written off already as well. And they're ahead of the Islanders in the standings. They have 33 points in 37 games played, so they have 7 games on the Islanders. So the Islanders have 7 games in hand on the Flyers. But still, that's a game you need to win. You look at that, and that has to be like another New Jersey Devils game. That's a team you got to leapfrog to try and get up there towards getting close to Boston.
No, they got to take 4 out of 4 here against the Flyers. And it's a home and home, back-to-back, so neither team has an excuse. They're both in the same situation.
Yeah.
Right? So that's 4 points the Islanders got to take. The Flyers are a team that they're going to have to be well past if they want to get into a playoff spot. So I mean, these are just 4 points that they have to collect. You look a little bit further down. You got the Coyotes, I believe, on Friday. So I mean, again, another game you need to win. So they have a chance to put some points together, put a little bit of a streak together. Maybe you hope that yesterday's just a hiccup. You can't expect them to win every game in a row, but. You only get a 2-game sample size this past week. They're just getting back, and it'd be a little more encouraging if they had been able to beat a team like the Capitals at home yesterday with the majority of their roster back.
Yeah, that would have been a big one. Granted, you don't have Barry Trotz behind the bench still. I mean, that's really about it. And Ryan Pulak, I think, is the only one still out. And you had Ross Johnson, who was out because he's been suspended for 3 games. So, I mean, their lineup is there. They have the talent level anyway to at least compete, and we've seen this team do well in the past, but right now they have to get out of their own way, and we've seen it. We saw it against the Capitals in that game where it almost seemed like some of them were reverting back to some of the old ways that have kind of gotten the Islanders into trouble in the past.
Yeah, I mean, there was ups and downs. There were some spots where they looked good. There were some positives to take out of it. I was encouraged by the play of Oliver Wahlstrom and Kiefer Bellows still, which is a good sign, which is a good thing. If you're just looking for silver linings to take out of a game like that, I thought they both made some really good plays. It almost led to goals. You had a crossbar, I think, by Bellows. You had another shot off the post. So they had a couple of chances that could have gone in. But again, you can't be harping on or depending on 2 or 3 chances to get you by in a game. This is something that's going to have to get a little more consistent as far as the offensive chances go. And their power play looked a little weaker as of late than it had previously. We have been talking about how much better it's looked lately. I believe one of the power plays, they had a couple of decent chances, but it just didn't go their way. But then the other 1 or 2 that they had, I forget the total that they had. No, I mean, they ended up backing up in their own zone. It was some bad news there. So, hopefully that is the rare instance as far as the power play goes, because it has looked a lot better over a consistent stretch of time here where it looks like they might have figured something out. So hopefully they get back on it with that. But yeah, just, maybe chalk it up to an afternoon game, whatever it is. I know a lot of Islander fans aren't crazy about the afternoon starts, but it's a game that, you hope that they could have gotten. They didn't. But big picture, Christian, I think this is the more important thing. Their record now stands at 11-13-6. They're still 2 games below NHL 500 with 30 games played, so 52 left on the docket here. Still a lot of points left on the board, but the Boston Bruins keep winning. Yes. That's a problem. They are now 18 points behind Boston. I think they have 5 games in hand on them now, which is a nice 10 points, but you're still 8 behind even if you make them up. So that has to happen sooner than later, and certainly not looking to cast a dark shadow over the hopes and dreams of the season here. We're just trying to keep it as real as possible that Their work is cut out for them. It's not impossible. 52 games is still 104 points on the board. So, but they got to get the majority of them.
Yeah.
If they want to get it. Especially if Pittsburgh and Boston keeps winning. Because they're both playing really well. Pittsburgh's not too far off of a 10-game winning streak.
Right.
Boston been playing really well lately. Tuukka Rask is back. That's going to help them out. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah, there's as been the case really since end of November, beginning of December. There's not a lot of wiggle room for this team when it comes to their playoff chances and their playoff hopes. There's not a lot of games where we can say, all right, there's still plenty of hockey to play. Well, slowly ticking away, and things are getting more and more dire as the season progresses. And right now, the only thing that I think has the Islanders in a little bit of an advantage is the fact that they have had so few games in the last month or so, and they have so many games to make up. That I still think they've played the least amount of games in the league, so that somewhat bodes well for them. As you said, there are 10 points to be made up in the 5 games that they have in hand over the Bruins, but the Islanders got to win those 5 games. And all of that being said, you look at the calendar going forward. Those are winnable games. Again, when you look at the 2 games against the Flyers, that's the team you need to beat. If they can't beat the Flyers and they can't pick up 4 points in these next 2 games, that's a real problem.
Yep.
Arizona is a team you should smack around. If you can't pick up 2 points against the Coyotes, that's a problem. At home, that's a problem. Toronto was going to be an interesting one because that's going to be a tough game for the Islanders. And then, you look past this week, and they have the Philadelphia Flyers again. So they see the Flyers 3 times in the span of 8 days.
I think you got to take 8 out of the next 10 points. If we're just looking at it in that little cluster of 3 games against Philly, a game against Arizona, and a game against Toronto, I mean, you got to take at least 8 there because those are 3 winnable games. Toronto's a winnable game too. I mean, we all know where they are in the standings, but the Islanders-Toronto is kind of a different animal, especially when it's a home court advantage for the Islanders. So, that's obviously a game that the Islanders are going to come out for. The fans are going to come out for, and that's going to be, a lot of fun to watch as well. But yeah, I mean, that's the reality of things. They really have to go on a run. And I think the most important thing for this team now is that they just need to play. Like, no more of these 10, 11-day breaks. Hopefully, they're past the COVID protocol stuff. Hopefully, they don't run into any other teams that are on their schedule that cause them to miss some games.
Right.
Because not only do they just need to try to get into some consistency here and try to, really rally and put some points together, but the more games I would say now, we've kind of, hinted towards this in past shows, but, I mean, how many more games can the Islanders really have postponed where the league finally says, look, you're not getting 82 anymore.
Right.
And they need all 82.
And
yes, you can do points percentage, but...
And we still know what the calendar is for February.
No.
And it's January 16th.
And the truth is, we're operating under an assumption they're going to fill games. We don't even know that for sure.
Well, they're not planning. I don't think the league is planning to be like, all right, I guess we're just not doing anything for 3 weeks.
I mean, hasn't Mum been the word? I mean, has there been any sort of inkling? Not that I'm paying attention to what Bill Daly and Gary Bettman are saying every day, but I feel like I haven't seen anything that's indicated that they're definitely going to fill games or a lot of games or what have you during that stretch. It would be silly if they didn't.
Right.
But again, if every building in the league has Disney on Ice going on, filling those days, because those days get filled well in advance. You got bands coming through, you got concerts and stuff like that. So, maybe they can try to move some of it. But if those nights are filled, then maybe they don't get as many games into that stretch as we hope.
Yeah, it's a great question that. As you said, everything's been very quiet and very much but again, it wouldn't surprise me for the league to be like, January 29th. They're like, all right, we're going to have like 3 weeks of games coming up here, and here's the schedule. So everything changes on such a snap of a finger, on such a, there's such a quick change with this league and with everything going on. The bright side is if you look at what's been going on in the world, you're starting to see the COVID numbers drop. So perhaps we're seeing the other side of the surge with the Omicron variant, and that way we're seeing more games that are actually being played. And it goes back to somewhere where things were more normal in October and November, where games were being played before all this, all the craziness started late November, early December, and obviously when the Islanders were coming off the end of that 13-game road trip and coming back to UBS Arena and all that. So it seems like hopefully we're past that. We won't be talking about too many of these rescheduled games, although saw the other week when Philadelphia had a game postponed and then this and that. So like there's still so much chaos with everything that's been going on. But we'll see what happens. It's a very interesting time, and like I said, I think the Islanders, the one benefit the Islanders have is they have all those games in hand, and that at least the very least gives them a bit more of a fighting chance than if they were 28 points in the standings, and they were at pace with everyone else in the league. So there's something to be said for that.
Just get the games in. Get the games in. Get them played. Let's see some hockey. Everybody was dying to get into that arena. They had to wait as long as they did. Now you got all these home games coming up. Get a little more acclimated. Start to feel a little more like home. Hopefully you see some wins. And look, it'd be nice if at the very least this team can stay competitive in the months ahead. I mean, nobody wants to close the book on a season when you're barely through January, right? So they got to string some wins together right now, starting tomorrow. And hopefully it gives everybody a reason to come to the games, to keep watching. And, hopefully we're not talking about the draft in the summer before the season's over, I mean, unfortunately, we're just kind of in that limbo now where it's do or die. And, we may have to pivot the conversation sooner than we might like if they don't get things together. I mean, and look, just, again, looking at it through a realistic lens, this is still a team who is capable of it. Like, I don't think any of us are going to fall off our chairs and say, oh, my God, they won 5 in a row. Where did that come from? Like, this team can do it, even if they're not playing as well as we expected coming into this season. Mm-hmm. But we've seen hints of it. We've seen them, before this most recent break, they were starting to play better. They were starting to string wins together. So it wouldn't be out of line. It wouldn't be out of the question, but it's just they really have to tighten things up. And the inconsistency that we've seen out of this team so far is kind of what keeps having us saying, well, we're not really sure where this is going to go.
Yeah, it's a bizarre scenario. And, we were talking about it the other day. It is such the Islanders are such a mystery this year, because how much of it is COVID? How much of it is the actuality of the front office not doing enough to put a good team on the ice this season? I mean, it's going to be really easy to sort of just throw everything and say, oh, it's COVID, it was the road trip, it was this and that. I look forward to getting to break all of this down at the end and seeing where all the chips land. Right. But right now, I think everything's lining up to be COVID. It's the road trip when maybe
absolutely.
Maybe there was.
That's already how I look at it in my head.
But I don't know if that's a fair representation of what actually happened this season. I don't know if COVID never happens, if the 13-game road trip is split up and or they don't start the year on a 13-game road trip. Let's say UBS is done, or they play at Nassau Coliseum. Instead of going right into UBS.
Or it's just a normal 82-game season. They start a couple games on the road, a couple games at home, whatever it is. It's a balanced season. Yeah. We don't know. And the thing is, things weren't that bad at the end of that road trip. They were a game under 500. Right. Which was fine. It was 13 games.
It was rough, but they were coming back on somewhat of like a decent. It wasn't ideal, but they were coming back in a scenario where
in the middle of the trip, they were 5-2-2. They were a couple games above 500. It almost looked like it was going to be a good trip. Right? And then they fell back again. A little bit, yeah. But they still ended the trip a game under 500, which I think we've said this before. After a 13-game road trip to start the season, you take it, right? Yeah. But then the unexpected disaster, the COVID comes, and that's what kind of spiraled things out a little more. And no, we're never going to know what would have happened if it was a normal season to start. We don't know. Would Kyle Palmieri still have one goal? We don't know. But it doesn't matter.
Sean almost have broken his headphones there.
But we got a break for Andrew Gross. He's coming on in just a little bit.
All right.
So, want to thank you all for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. And, of course, your favorite podcast providers are going to take a quick break. When we come back, Andrew Gross of Newsday will join us.
Nikki, where should I go to watch the Islander game?
Dad, where should Fran go to watch the Islander game?
Just tell her to go to RJ Daniels.
Love the Isles? Go to RJ Daniels and enjoy your favorite hockey team with their big screen TVs and in-game sound. RJ Daniels also provides indoor and outdoor dining, catering, a vibrant late-night bar scene, and weekly live entertainment. Need great planials? Go to RJ Daniels. Call or visit online at rjdaniels.com.
From the Coliseum to UBS Arena, we're still rocking the barn.
We made a product based on something that we're big fans of.
You're going to rock the barn, you're going to have a barn rocker.
Oyster Bay Brewing Company's Barn Rocker. Available at UBS Arena and everywhere beer is sold.
I don't want to hear it. It's over. I can't believe they fell short again.
Yeah, but they played so well. They made it to the semifinals 2 years in a row.
The semifinals aren't the cup. God damn it, I hate those Lightning.
They'll get another shot at it next year.
I don't even want to talk about it anymore, all right? They lost, okay? Let me just sit here and enjoy the one thing that makes me a little bit happy. This fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty, turkey-filled Blue Line Combo. I eat 3 every day to help keep me strong.
Hey, Donnie, can I have one of those?
Coming right up. Talk about a blast from the Blue Line.
Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Our goal is to make you a hero.
Hope you enjoyed the ads. Now let's get back to Hockey Night in New York with Sean Cuthbert and Christian Arnold.
I was going to make fun of you for almost jumping the gun there, and then I
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for On the Line, brought to you by our good friends at Tide Technology. Joining us right now from Newsday, the great Andrew Gross. Andrew, pleasure to have you on. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well, Sean. Christian, it was great to talk to you tonight, and it was great seeing both of you yesterday. So, two interactions in 24 hours. You got to keep that going.
Yes, a spoil of delights, if you will, Andrew. So we were just talking about, obviously, the Islanders finally got back to action. They got a couple of games in here, a win and a loss. Real quick, real easy. What did you see out there in these first 2 games back after an 11-day layoff for the Islanders?
Well, it was almost like it was reversed, right? Because they were, the first period coming back against the Devils, and the Devils were coming off a 10-day layoff themselves. So that first period, was not textbook hockey, but it was not as brutal as you might have thought with 2 teams that just hadn't played in forever. I say it was almost reversed because I thought the win over the Devils, was a decent hockey game. And then you go to the 2-0 game against the Caps, and that was the game where they couldn't put 2 passes together. They couldn't get out of their defensive zone. They couldn't figure out how to drive through the neutral zone. And then, those 2 zones were a disaster. And then even further, when they got into the offensive zone, they were just, there was nothing there, right? So, and Lane Lambert made that point after the game that, he was disappointed in the result, disappointed in the execution. And even he thought the 2 games should have been flip-flopped. So, I really think it's not so much the layoff, it's the Islanders needing to step up their game against better competition. And so far this season, they haven't done that at all.
Andrew, you mentioned that in a story that you wrote today for Newsday, actually, the interesting stat, I think, from your story, the Islanders are 0-4 against the 3 or 4 playoff teams in the Metropolitan Division, and they were outscored by some astronomical number in all the games that they played against Pittsburgh, Carolina, the Rangers, and the Caps, if I'm not mistaken. If those are the teams that were in the article,
the 4 teams from the Metro that are in. It's 0-4-0 against the Caps, Rangers, Hurricanes, and Penguins, and they've been outscored 13-4 in those 4 games.
What has it been? This was an Islander team that we all expected to be competitive, and everyone knows the story now coming into the season. But what has it been about the Islanders' effort against these better teams that that they're getting the wins against the teams that they should be getting, the Devils and all these teams? But why can't the Islanders seem to get a win against a top 4 opponent right now?
Well, what you have to hope at this point of the season is it's because they just haven't been playing with their full lineup. That, at every turn through the season, there's been some part missing. And really, the Capitals game was, one of the few games this season where they really, other than Ryan Pulock on defense, they really had their choice of every player they wanted to use in that game. Obviously, Ross Johnson is suspended, but you still that allows you to get Matt Martin in, and it still allows you to keep Kyle Palmieri on the bench. Brock Nelson is back. JG Pajot is back after his wife Camille had their first child. So you had everyone out there. So you really have to hope because otherwise, you can really write the obit on the season if they continue to play so poorly against quality teams. You just have to hope it's because in those games, they just haven't had their full complement of players. And with getting everyone back, they will play better. But, 13-4, you gotta, if you can't score, you can't win games. I don't care how good your defense is. If you're not scoring goals at all, then there's just, it's a moot point.
What I'm taking away from that, Andrew, is that Ross Johnston was the difference there. Him not being in the lineup last night.
Hey, Ross, we love Ross Johnson, right? And look, he's never going to be a 20-goal scorer. He's probably never going to be a 10-goal scorer, but he's got a pretty decent wrist shot when he takes it, and he's got soft hands around the crease. I'm not saying he's Anders Lee, but, and he's not the answer to their goal-scoring issues, but, don't dump on Ross because he'll beat the crap out of you.
Well, that's fair.
That's ill-advised.
He would do that, 100%, and there's no question about that. We're talking with Andrew Gross from Newsday here on the line, brought to you by our friends over at Tide Technology. And Andrew, when it comes to the offensive output by the team, especially in these games, what is it about the team that they seem to kind of go cold, especially against these teams that you need to beat to claw your way back into the playoff picture? You saw it yesterday where the Islanders tend to get a little bit more pass happy than shot happy at times. And what was it? Noah Dobson may have had the best chance when he rang two off the post, two off the iron.
Yeah.
So what is it about this team that continues to be this narrative that not only has kind of been part of their conversation this year, but in years past where they continue just not to want to put shots on the net?
Yeah, no, I think it's just that's it. They're tentative. They're always looking. It's almost like they defer to each other. That they're such good teammates with each other that they're always looking to set each other up. Maybe if they hated each other a little bit, they'd be selfish and take some shots. But it's absolutely frustrating because. The play that epitomized the Capitals game is Josh Bailey. He had a third of the net open to shoot at. Yeah. And he's trying to feather a pass to the far post for a better chance. And, at some point, you got to recognize that the puck on your stick with a look is the best chance. And, even if you don't score, the puck drops down. Because Vitek Vanacek, if Josh Bailey shoots that puck, Vanacek is in no position to smother the puck. There would have been a rebound there had he somehow managed to get his shoulder on that puck. So, the only way I can say this is these guys have to be more selfish a-holes,
I mean, you're not necessarily wrong, Andrew, because it's something we've definitely talked about over the course of this season where guys have been looking to pass instead of shoot. Barzal has been guilty about it. Bailey has been very guilty about it. And, you talk about him having that open net. It's not the first, second, or third time in his career where that's happened.
No.
It's been
first, second, or third time that game it happened.
Fair.
And the crazy thing, and we talked about this after the game last night, was he's coming off a game where he finally shot the puck on the power play and scored. So he scores his second goal and he goes right back to the frustrating part of his game the next game. And he doesn't build upon that goal, the power play goal in the game before. And, and I know fans and media, our pendulum swings after a winner or loss are way too extreme. It's not just hockey. It's in any sport. Both fans and media just go far too one way after a win or a loss based on that result. And the truth is somewhere down the middle. But it was really frustrating watching that game from an Islander standpoint on Saturday because they didn't build upon any of the stuff they needed to build upon. And it just left so many question marks in everyone's mind as to whether there really is going to be a playoff push. And you hate to say that after just 60 minutes of hockey, but that's the way I came away from UBS Arena yesterday, really questioning, I almost want to say for the first time, because I've given this team a lot of the benefit of the doubt through the first 30 games, because we've seen the track record here. We know where we think this is a good team, right? And we've seen them go to the NHL Final Four 2 years in a row by hook or by crook, and maybe they weren't even the best team in the best 4 teams in the league, through the regular season the past 2 seasons, but at the end of the season, they were one of the best 4 teams. And, if they somehow win that semifinal, game 7 at Tampa, we're talking about the defending Stanley Cup champions, because there's no way they lose to the Montreal Canadiens.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's a very, very sore subject, Andrew.
Yeah, so we know. So all season, I've been more than willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. The schedule is against them, the COVID outbreaks, the injuries.
Right.
But yesterday was really the first game where I had to step back and go, maybe there just isn't anything here this season, with the way they're currently constructed.
No, Andrew, I think there's something to that. And I think, it's funny. I think maybe it goes a little bit along with the pendulum swinging that you're talking about here, is because, we've had so many breaks in between games here. They haven't really had a chance to play too many teams that they need to beat, like the Washington Capitals. We need some more samples here. So, but unfortunately, the first go at it against the Caps, second game back, it doesn't go the way it needs to. And sure, I'm in the same boat with you, kind of questioning, where this team is going to go if this is going to be the regular thing here, where they play a game against the Caps, the Rangers, the Penguins, the Bruins. Is this going to be the norm here, where they're going to drop games? And if they do, then that's going to spell the end of the season pretty quickly.
And the other thing is, you look at the teams ahead of them. And I'm not talking, I'm talking specifically, about the teams holding playoff spots in the Eastern Conference. So the Hurricanes, the Capitals, the Rangers, the Penguins, right? The 4 teams in the Eastern Division you look at as, pretty solid playoff contenders at this point, right? And then you look at the Bruins. The Bruins might be the best team in the league right now, the way they've been playing lately, and they just got Tuukka Rask back. So you tell me, amongst those, the Hurricanes, Penguins, Capitals, who am I missing? Rangers, and then the Bruins, who are still in a wild card spot, and the other teams in the Atlantic Division, I don't expect anyone to drop off either. The Lightning, the Panthers, the Maple Leafs.
Right.
You tell me, out of those 8 teams, who's dropping out of a playoff spot, over the second half of the season? So the Islanders could very well make a great push, over the last 52 games. But beating out any one of those 8 specific teams is going to be pretty tough. And right now, I out of that group, maybe it's the Rangers, that might slide back a little bit. But how much, even if the Rangers go 500 the rest of the way, do they fall out of a playoff spot? I'm not sure they do.
Yeah, I mean, the only hope beyond the Islanders, winning a lot of games themselves. I mean, you keep in the back of your mind that there's ebbs and flows to a season where, there's a lot of teams in the NHL that through 82 games, they can look like a barn burner through 10 games, 15 games, and then all of a sudden the next section of games, they look like they can't beat anybody. And unfortunately for the Islanders, that latter part came in the beginning for them. And hopefully they can flip the script with at least one of those teams going forward. I mean, that's kind of the hope that you have to hang yourself on. But I guess to kind of bring things more to a micro situation here, Christian and I were talking about this before he came on. They have back-to-back games now against a division rival coming up tomorrow and Tuesday against Philadelphia. They're a struggling team themselves. Should they win those games, it gets them to NHL 500 with exactly 50 games to go. Does that at least keep the spark alive in the immediate?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, because the pendulum will swing back the other way.
Exactly.
Right?
They look great.
But I'll tell you what, the one phrase I think other than it is what it is, this concept of NHL 500 is a crock.
Not the first time I've heard that. Yeah.
No. Look, the good thing about the Islanders is, in a way, matters are still in their own hands. They have to do a lot of winning, but they're going to be playing the teams that they have to beat.
Right.
So, you got to get a lot of regulation wins. They still have 3 games against both the Rangers and Caps. They have all 4 games against the Flyers. They got 2 each against the Hurricanes and Penguins. So, what do they have? They have, I think it's, I counted it up today. It's 18 divisional games remaining out of their last 52. So, they have a chance to beat the teams they got to play, and they still have to play the Bruins. I think twice more, right? I'm not looking at that
Same, yeah.
exactly. I know they got 1 trip to Boston, and I think there's another game in there as well. So, you're going to have a chance. Now it's a matter of whether the Islanders can up their game, which takes us back to what we started at the beginning. They have to play well against quality teams. And if I can quote further from the article that I put on Newsday.com today, against teams, there are 16 teams in the Eastern and Western conferences currently holding a playoff spot. Against, every chance the Islanders have had to play against a team currently in a playoff spot in either conference, the Islanders are 2-10-2, and they've been outscored 46-21 in those games. So, it's miserable. It's truly miserable. And again, you have to hope that that's because when they played most of those games, it was a hybrid Islanders roster where they were not playing with their full complement. But, again, they're going to have to play significantly better against quality teams. They still have, of the teams they've gone 2-10-2 against so far, they still have 27 games remaining against teams currently in a playoff spot. That's more than half their remaining games are teams currently in a playoff spot. So, you look at it either as glass half full, the teams that they have to beat are right there in front of them for them, or you look at it as glass half empty, which is they can't beat these teams.
Right.
We're talking with Andrew Gross from Newsday. Of course, he's also the host of the Island Ice podcast, which you can listen to across podcast platforms, of course, after you listen to Hockey Night in New York. I always
never forget to say that, Chris.
I always have to put that in there. Andrew, by the way, you were correct. The Islanders do play the Bruins 2 more times. They play them actually twice in the span of a week. They played them at UBS Arena on the 22nd, and then they played them in Boston the 26th of March, followed by I think that's their first national game on TNT, the 27th against the Tampa Bay Lightning, all towards the end of the month of March, all towards the end of the season, all towards whether those games could be really important or they could be super unimportant.
One of the Islanders. One of the Islanders' 2 wins in those 14 games against teams in a playoff spot did come against the Bruins, a 3-1 win at UBS. And again, the Bruins roster was fairly depleted that night as well. But you know what? No one gave the Islanders any break. So a win is a win there. So.
Indeed, Andrew. And another question I want to ask you, just because starting to see some rumblings about this. I don't give much credence to it, but I want to entertain it anyway. If the season happens to play out where the Isles do miss the playoffs, they fall short of the high expectations that they had this season, does that have any effect on Lou or Barry's job security with this team, given all of the unexpecteds coming into this season and kind of what landed them in this place in the first place?
Honestly, I don't think so, because I think Lou and Barry are both in these jobs sort of as long as they want right now. And I mean, Barry's contract goes through next season. So really the Islanders do have to make a decision on Barry, before next season, whether they're going to offer him an extension or not, because I don't think the Islanders want a lame duck coach. And I don't think Barry, after his experience in Washington, wants to go into the final year of his deal again without, knowing what's going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
So, I think, if Barry doesn't, and this is a huge hypothetical, right? If Barry finds out that he's not going to get a contract extension, it would not shock me if maybe he decides it's time to move on. But again, that's purely speculation on my part. I'm not saying that that's what I'm hearing is happening.
Right.
But under that scenario, that's Barry's decision to leave. I don't think Lou is famous for getting rid of, some highly accomplished coaches at some very weird times.
True.
But I don't sense that is going to be the case here. And as far as Lou is concerned, I think as long as he feels up to this job of, being both president and general manager, ownership is committed to him and his vision for this franchise. He's not going anywhere until he wants to go somewhere.
I agree.
Andrew, I'm curious, now that we've kind of gone down this rabbit hole, what is, it's still, I'm sure, a number of years away, but what is the plan post Lou Lamoriello and post Barry Trotz?
Well, I can't tell you what post Barry Trotz would be, because I suspect, when Barry leaves, he's probably going to take Lane Lambert and Mitch Korn with him. So, it would just depend really on which. I think Lou for this group would want, an accomplished coach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I don't think Brent Thompson is getting promoted from Bridgeport to take over the team.
By the number of tweets I get during the course of the season, I'm sure you get twice or three times as many about the Sound Tigers and Brent Thompson. I think there are a lot of angry customers at UBS.
Yeah. I mean, there are good young coaches out there. There are good coaches looking for a job. It's not like Lou is going to have, no one to interview.
Right.
So, it's sort of just, it's when the opening occurs, right? I mean, the Islanders, Barry Trotz happened to be available when the Islanders were looking for a coach. It worked out really nicely. There's some really good coaches around the NHL that, what happens if, Bruce Cassidy just happens to be available because, the Bruins and Cassidy decide to part ways. You're not going to take a look at Bruce Cassidy, right?
Sure.
So, it's so hard to project a next coach. I can probably give you a better scenario for next GM, which, I sort of feel like, Lou at some point may decide to just concentrate on being president and maybe elevating his son, Chris Lamoriello, to being the GM. That would be my best guess.
Interesting. I feel like a lot of people kind of had that written in, especially when Lou came into the Islanders. Or I think there was even when Garth was here, there was kind of that presumption that Chris Lamoriello would be the next in line for that job. But again, under the sort of rabbit hole that we've gone down, I am curious because Lane Lambert has gotten a couple games behind the bench now, and certainly he's a guy that a lot of people always talk about as the next guy to really make a mark as an NHL head coach. Has this added any sort of glean to him as far as not coaching vacancies, but as that next NHL head coach down the line when jobs do become available after the season?
Yeah, I think he's certainly done a decent job, and again, he can't just go by what reaction on Twitter is, but
right. I thought that's how we do this job.
Yeah, right. What I'm seeing, the reactions on Twitter is like Lane is coaching in a vacuum. No. he's talking to Barry Trotz multiple times during a day. You know, Barry is in on all the planning sessions, all the lineup sessions. It's just that Lane is implementing the plan. But I don't think this hurts Lane Lambert's candidacy, if there is one after this season at all. Just sort of getting a little bit of the spotlight here, you know, just kind of reminding folks around the league that he is a qualified candidate. You know, and hey, look, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have been so quick. I mean, it could be if Barry Trotz does, for whatever reason, you know, doesn't get an extension and decides to leave, you know, does Lou, before Barry brings Lane somewhere else, does Lou turn to Lane and go, well, you know, you could have, you know, maybe you get the job here. So, you know, maybe Lane Lambert could be, you know, next man up for the Islanders under that scenario. But it just in general, I think, you know, just being, you know, having other teams seeing you run the bench just kind of, you know, reminds them that you're still out there and you are a good candidate. I mean, Barry Trotz has been advocating for Lane Lambert. We're going, you know, what he interviewed for the Colorado Avalanche job in, was it 2016, and then for the Anaheim Ducks in 2019. And almost the first words out of Barry Trotz's mouth when he became the Islanders coach was, you know, I'm sort of befuddled that Lane Lambert doesn't have a head coaching job yet. You know, so he's advocated for his friend for a long time. And, you know, I think that these past 2 weeks can only help Lane Lambert.
Well, I think we just birthed an idea for a brand new podcast called NHL's What If, after all those rabbit holes that we did go down. So maybe we'll have a little powwow after the show about that. But Andrew, it is the time of the show where we ask you a random question. And there was something floating around Twitter. Now, I have no idea what this alludes to, what this has to do with, so I hope this question is worth it. But there was something going on out there about a rap song. Are you going to ask Andrew Gross about a rap song? So it piqued my curiosity enough. What is this rap song people are talking about?
Yeah, so full disclosure, my nephew, Kenny, is a budding rap artist.
Okay.
And he goes by the name of Trey K. And you can find Trey K on Spotify if you so wish.
All right.
So he called up last week and he was telling me, you know, he invited basically the whole family. He said, we're shooting a video next Sunday. Can we get you guys down? You know, sort of as back. And I said, I mean, it's family. I said, yeah. And then, so I show up at the shoot with my drum kit because I said, look, I said, maybe, you know, like I can just be in the background, you know, playing a beat. And they were like, that, what they said to me, Kenny says to me, after I said, I'll bring my drum kit, he goes, oh, that would be lit. And then I turned to my daughter and I said, Kenny says it's going to be lit. Is that good? and Phoebe assured me that lit is good. So
yes.
So I show up with my drum set, and we shot a few things, and it turns out that the song we're shooting a video for, and the video should be ready in about 2 weeks. It was not for my nephew Kenny. It turned out to be with one of his partners. The guy who does the beats for Trey K is a guy named Dre P.
A lot of letters. Okay.
Yeah, Dre P. and you can find Dre P on Spotify as well.
There we go.
And we shot a video for Dre P's rap called Dead Ops.
Okay.
Dead Ops. And I thought it was a really cool song. I thought the concept for the video was really good. It was Dre P is rapping about anxiety and things that, you know, really make us anxious, and the effects of, you know, having anxiety. I thought it was a great topic.
Right on.
And one of the concepts and the chorus sort of is, blow in, blow out, like you're hyperventilating into a paper bag.
Okay.
So one of the scenes was all of us sitting around, like basically hyperventilating into paper bags. And then we had a brainstorming session where we were writing down all the words, all the things in life we wouldn't want to be. And we would write these on the brown bags, and then we would, blow up the bag and show it at the camera so the word was prominent. And so I thought it was an interesting concept for the video. I can't wait to see it.
I can't wait to see it.
I am going to post, some photos and some video on Twitter tomorrow morning, because I was told if there's no video and no photo, it didn't happen. So I will. But yeah, that was my first video. Actually, the funny thing was, so we're there, and there was Dre P had his young son there, who was probably maybe between 3 and 4. Really, really sweet, cute kid.
Right.
So the kid was sitting in the middle of the dining room table while we were all breathing into these brown paper bags, and the kid was also breathing into the brown paper bag. So at the when they called cut and that scene was over, I looked at the kid. He was sitting right in front of me. So I said to him, I was like, "Is this your first video?" Right? And the kid looked at me and he just held up 2 fingers. He said, "Nah, my second." I was like, I was like, "You're the pro. You got to tell me how to do things." So,
well,
wait. So I have more questions. So is that
right.
Trey, K-T-R-A-Y-K, like the letter K?
No, T-R-E space letter K. Trey K.
That's what I figured.
Right, well, yeah. I'm not, unlike Andrew, I'm not in the hip hop game, so how am I supposed to know that?
Yeah, well, first day on the job for me, and Dre P is, like Dr. Dre, D-R-E, and then just the letter P.
Andrew, I am very excited to see
I found
this
it.
music video.
I found it, I think.
You found Trey
Spotify?
K?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
As someone like you, was that one of his songs?
Trey K, Kenny he's probably got about 5-6 tunes up right now. He's been dropping videos, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
He has an album up here called "Who Killed Benny." Is that him? Am I on the right page?
It wasn't you, was it, Andrew?
No.
Andrew Gross.
Talk about rabbit holes.
Yeah, jeez. Andrew Gross from Newsday, also the host of the Island Ice podcast. You can catch that. I think that's semi-weekly or at weekly.
Yeah, we're doing about weekly. We took a little bit of a hiatus over the holidays, but we're back full force. And as I keep promising, you two will be guests soon enough.
Yeah, you keep promising that. I'm still waiting.
Yeah, Christian's been a little upset.
Yeah,
I know. Well, I haven't seen Christian because he's doing this. I mean, it's some league I don't really know much about.
Sport. Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask you guys about 20 questions about Kevin Durant, but I decided against that. But Andrew Gross from Newsday covers the Islanders for Newsday and Islanders.
Let me just ask you something
here.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Okay, take the Islanders' 3 best players.
Right.
Just give me 3 names.
Matthew Barzal. Oliver Wahlstrom, and let's go Brock Nelson.
Okay, so that's the Islanders' big 3, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you expect to see them in every single game?
Do I expect to see them in every single game? Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, hockey's a better sport.
This is a whole other conversation. And honestly, I strongly disagree.
I always knew I liked you, Andrew.
I strongly disagree with the notion that you're going down, but I feel like if we do this, we're going to be on here for another hour.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I will make it foolish. Andrew Gross from Newsday. I have to ask you before we let you go too. What was for dinner that you had to push us back 5 minutes because Mrs. Gross didn't have dinner fully cooked yet, and you wanted to make sure you could sit down and enjoy it?
All right. Well, the first thing, speaking about rabbit holes here, she is not Mrs. Gross. She never took my last name.
Wow.
She is Dr. Rubenstein.
Dr. Rubenstein. Gotcha. All
Yes.
right. My
Yes.
mistake.
She made. I mean, it was tremendous. She cooked a really thick, meaty piece of haddock.
She's watching now, isn't she?
She's listening.
No. I'm in my office. I'm telling you, it was delicious. I mean, it was perfectly cooked, and it had a panko Parmesan crust on it. I mean, she did a fantastic job, and it was worth the extra 5 minutes delaying you guys so I could savor that meal.
Well, Andrew, we're very glad you enjoyed the meal, and always glad to have you join us here in the show. Always a lot of fun. That was fantastic. Best of luck to Trey K, and I can't wait to see you in that music video, so please keep us posted.
I can't wait to hear Andrew drop a couple bars on the next Trey K song.
I kind of want that.
Oh, well, I will not be rapping, but there is talk about me, maybe being a live drummer for them. So maybe there's that.
Oh,
yeah.
I love this.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Well, next time we'll have to get an update. Next time we have you on. All right, Andrew. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Always a pleasure. We'll be talking to you soon.
You guys are the best. Thanks for having me on. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a great rest of your night, Andrew. Take care.
Anytime, Andrew. Andrew Gross from Newsday, host of the Island Ice podcast as well, covers the Islanders.
The Islanders. What is with this show?
Covers the New York Islanders for Newsday, does a tremendous job over there. And we love having Andrew on because not only do we get tremendous Islanders insight, but we also get tremendous insight into
a little bit about
the
the
life
rap
of
game,
Andrew Gross.
The culinary arts. I mean, just covering a lot of bases with Andrew Gross. I mean, it was music not too long ago.
Yeah.
Last time we had him on, heard all about his concert experience. I mean, Andrew Gross covering all bases, living life. Andrew Gross, living life.
Future rap star.
That's the next podcast. Andrew Gross, living life. All right, folks, let's keep the train rolling here on Hockey Night in New York.
Oh, want to remind people, too, we are going to do questions brewing a little bit later in the program. So if you have any questions that are brewing, please throw them in the chat or don't, whatever you want to do.
Okay, great. Well, always a great on-the-line segment brought to you by Thai Technology. Yeah. But I say we move on to the next one. How about What's on Tap?
Oh, What's on Tap.
Remember we got to do What's on Tap? Let's do What's on Tap.
All right,
let's do it.
Waiting for you to hit that button.
And now, it's time for What's on Tap. Brought to you by RJ Daniels, American Bar and Grill.
Hockey is on tap. You do a great impression of that guy.
Thanks, man. I practice a lot.
Plenty on tap, finally.
Yeah, we kind of covered it already. But
yes, the New York Islanders, they play hockey this week. They continue to play hockey. You got the Philadelphia Flyers twice, two very important games, a home and home with the Flyers. First game tomorrow night. I'm actually surprised they're playing tomorrow night, not tomorrow day. Usually they get an afternoon matinee.
That used to be an Islander
on the Martin
thing.
Luther King holiday
but
here.
Lou's in charge now. So
that's right.
It's a different ballgame.
The other matinee, always guaranteed matinee, was the President's Day matinee.
Yeah.
That was always a fun one, too, because they would always get the guys from the giant president mascot things from the Nationals. They'd come down and they race around the ice. That was always fun.
I'm not one of those fortunate individuals that gets MLK Day off, so selfishly, it's kind of nice that there isn't a game in the afternoon tomorrow, so I can actually view it, during regular broadcasting times. So, sorry to everybody else who was hoping to have a game during the afternoon.
But important game nonetheless for the Islanders. They need 2 points there against the Philadelphia Flyers. A little bit of a rebound, too, after a rough loss against the Washington Capitals on Saturday. Then they have the Philadelphia Flyers again at the Wells Fargo Center in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. Another important game because the Islanders need another 2 points, and let's be honest, they need to take 4 points out of that home and home with the Flyers, considering where Philadelphia is. The Arizona Coyotes, they come to town, the future Houston, whatever you want to call them.
Recent defeaters of the Toronto Maple Leafs, actually. That happened not too long ago, the other night.
Listen, broken clock twice.
Beat the Leafs.
Broken clock is right twice a day, so it's bound to happen every once in a while.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the big bad Toronto Leafs come in, led by their captain, John Tavares. Isles legend right there.
Yeah. Wow. You are really just fueling that fire, aren't you?
Have to do it.
Throwing gas on the fire. Yeah, supposed to be a road game. Now it is a home game
at the UBS Arena.
I look forward to attending.
You will be there.
I will. And
it's a 7 o'clock start, which is nice.
7 o'clock start on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what the reception is at UBS Arena for Captain John Tavares. Is it going to be as strong?
I'm not
going to.
I don't want to, because I feel you're setting me up to just say stuff.
What do you mean? What are you
You're
talking
setting
about?
me up here.
Setting you up for what?
You set me up here.
What are you talking about?
All I will say on this topic is that the Islanders will play the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a really important game that the Islanders need to look at and get 2 points out of. Every game this week is important. They need 2 points. And it goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier in the show, where the Islanders need to beat teams that are in playoff position. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in playoff position. They have some of the best players in the league right now. And they are a team that can do a lot of damage. And for all the people that still hate John Tavares and for whatever your viewpoint is on how everything went down a couple of years ago, that is a game that, would really sting if the Islanders don't win. But if they get their socks knocked off in that game, which is very possible considering the firepower that the Toronto Maple Leafs have. So that is a game that the Islanders need to be up for, and they need to play up to where their potential is. And it's kind of like the Capitals game, where if they want to be taken seriously as even remotely sniffing the postseason, that's a game they have to win.
Absolutely agree. That's another game that the Islanders have to show that they're some semblance of that team that we've seen in the last couple of years. And they've really only done that in a very small vacuum so far over the course of this season. So that's a game. I mean, the other games is just have-to wins. This is another one that you're looking at. It's just like, okay, show us you got a chance to come back in the mix here. Beat a team like Toronto. Beat a playoff team. Beat a team with a lot of firepower. Exactly. So I'm with you there 100%.
John Tavares hat-trick night.
But you won't be there because you don't cover the team anymore.
I will not be there.
You won't be there. Or maybe you'll go as a fan.
I'm not taking the bait for any of this because I feel like you're just setting me up to make some sort of comment. And
okay.
I'm not as much as I'd love to be there for John Tavares hat-trick night.
That was
you ain't
What's
right,
on
man.
Tap, brought to you by RJ Daniels, American Bar and Grill.
And just to address it, T_Boyle13 did ask, are you doing a viewing party this Tuesday at RJ's for the Flyers game? We are not. However, RJ Daniels will have the game on. They will have the sound on. They will have drink specials, food specials, as they do for all their Islander broadcasts. So even though we are not doing a viewing party,
broadcast,
we heavily encourage you to go to RJ's to catch the game on Tuesday against the Philadelphia Flyers.
Oh, you want to go to RJ Daniels on Tuesday, watch the game against the Philadelphia Flyers?
With you?
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll talk about it.
To the bar?
Maybe.
Have a drink or two?
Yeah,
watch the game?
I wouldn't rule it out. Rule it out.
We went yesterday to the game. You didn't tell the folks about that. It's almost like you're ashamed.
You know what? It's a little embarrassing. But we did go to the game together yesterday. No, I figured how else are you going to go to an Islander game? Now I got to drag you to them because you're covering that silly basketball team. I needed to make sure you were prepared for tonight.
I know someone who has said if I wanted tickets, they have tickets for me. Yeah. I won't name my contact, but they have great seats.
That's fine.
And they hooked me up for the Boston Bruins Islanders game.
Yes, somehow I managed to sit 3 whole periods next to Christian Arnold. And I survived.
We did split up each intermission. We were like, we need a break. We can't be around each other anymore.
Go see someone else. I need
Sean
to speak to
knew some people there. I knew some people at the game, and we were like, we need a break.
Yeah, a break. Always need a break. Well, that was What's on Tap. So there you have it.
Time for Hero of the Week?
Sure. Let's go right into Hero of the Week. We'll cover a couple other topics, and then we'll do Questions Brewing. So, folks, I want to thank you once again for tuning into twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY and your favorite podcast providers. We will take a short break. When we get back, it is time for Hero of the Week.
Customer service is the backbone of business, and reliable telecommunication is essential to keeping your client base happy. Introducing Thai Technology, a low-cost, flexible internet phone service founded on the idea that every customer deserves exceptional service while providing simple setup and management and easy integration to clients across the country. Thai Technology will not only create a custom solution tailored to your specific needs, but will partner with you to provide a competitive edge to you and your clients. And if you need support, you won't be routed to an automated call center in another country. You'll get a live representative that had a personal hand in building your account. So Islander fans, if your business is looking for a change from companies like Spectrum, Verizon, or Optimum, Thai Technology is offering 3 free months of service for any of its affordable packages. Just call 516-856-7800. That's 516-856-7800. Or visit them on the web at thaitechnology.com. That's Thai, T-I-E technology.com. Thai Technology, the right choice for your internet phone service.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you hear this song, that means it's time for the Hero of the Week, brought to you by the Blue Line Deli and Bagels Half Price Hero, which is none other than the Poke Check, featuring roast beef, turkey, ham, Swiss and American cheese, and mayo on a hero. Get it for half price all week starting tomorrow. That is Monday through next week, where we'll announce a brand new half off hero. Stop on in, mention Hockey Night in New York, and get half off the Poke Check. So, Christian, please delight our viewers and listeners with who you thought over the past week in these 2 games was your hero of the week.
My hero of the week is someone that everyone loves.
Okay.
Yeah. Big fan favorite. Not John. Absolutely not. Yikes. He's a gentleman. Where's the number? There's a 1 in his jersey.
Okay.
John Tavares.
I quit. I quit.
Did not see me
Show's over.
doing that.
Show's over.
It's Matthew Barzal.
There he is, ladies and
The guy
gentlemen.
who's
That handsome fellow.
Better
number
than John
13.
Tavares.
There you go. Look at you trying to win the favor back to the
No,
fans.
no, I had a snarky comment, but then you jumped in and I couldn't get it out.
Oh, too
quick
bad.
enough.
That's too bad. Really
But
sorry
no,
about that.
Matthew Barzal certainly deserves it. He played a very good game against the New Jersey Devils. Obviously had the game winner for the Islanders and an important 2 points that they needed. So as much as, my viewpoint of the game overall was not the best Islanders effort, it was still an impressive effort from Barzal and an important 2 points that he played a very, very big hand in. And obviously he's a guy that, that's
not wrong.
Listen, I want to have some fun now.
Okay. Have your fun. Keep going.
And he's a guy that night in and night out, we've talked about it before. He's such an important part of this team and the success, and especially if they're going to go on this stretch where they need to pick up, 4 points over the next 2 nights, really six points over the next 3, and arguably, since we're staying within the realm of next week too, 7 of possible 8.
They just got to win out the rest of the season.
They just need to. They need to win every game. Every
forward.
game needs to be a win.
Yeah. All right. Well,
the playoff push starts tomorrow.
Well enough said, Christian. Nice job. Thanks for participating. Now it's time for my hero of the
that
week.
was a little mean.
Buddy, I mean, look at what you're doing to the viewers here, talking about John Tavares as your hero of the week. You're lucky you're still sitting here. Jeez, unbelievable. All right, time for my hero.
John Tavares.
God Almighty. My hero recently named to the NHL All-Star Game. He had a goal versus the Devils. Adam Pelech, and I have to say, Christian, did not see this coming.
Neither of us saw it. We were arguing last week, was it going to be Sorokin or was it going to be Barzal?
Right, and we were both wrong.
We were dead wrong.
Out of left field, here comes the NHL with the elbow drop. Yeah, Adam Pelech. Congratulations to Adam Pelech. Nice to see a defensive defenseman getting some recognition for the All-Star Game. We were talking about this yesterday. When was the last time the league has done it, if at all?
I cannot think of a defensive defenseman in the way that Adam Pelech plays. I can't think of anyone in the last decade. Maybe someone.
Right?
Maybe it's someone in the chat.
But last ever. Like, I can't think of anybody. Now, granted, my memory only goes back a few days, but just thinking back, I don't know if I can really recall a true defensive defenseman getting the All-Star Game nod. Now, maybe if you want to be a little bit of a cynic, it's because the Islanders haven't exactly been the best team in the league this year, and they kind of had to reach for somebody, and that's why they landed on Adam Pelech. Maybe there wasn't room for Matt Barzal because of some other forwards that were performing very well.
Yeah. But it is
perhaps
interesting.
the same with goaltending. But it's great to see. It's nice to see a guy like Pelech get a nod. He's beloved within the fan base. He's one of the best defensive defensemen in the league, and you see it night in, night out, breaking up plays, breaking up 2-on-1s. He's just a fantastic player. So I hope he has a blast. I hope he has a lot of fun. That's great for him that he gets in there. He's obviously a very important piece to this team. So congratulations to Adam Pelech for not only being named to the All-Star Game, but also for being a hero of the week.
Very nice. Very nice. I think that's the bigger honor, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, the Hockey Night in New York Hero of the Week is pretty much tops.
Yeah. He's not even don't even need to show up to the All-Star Game at that point.
Right. He's going to show up with his Hockey Night in New York t-shirt and just
and the Hero of the Week, whatever it is from Blue Line Deli.
Yes, whatever it is, Christian.
No.
That would be the poke check, ladies and gentlemen, with roast beef, turkey, ham, Swiss, and American, and mayo on a hero. Remember, you can stop into the Huntington location to get
Huntington
50% off the poke check. The Hero of the Week will also be coming soon to the East Islip location, but I don't think Donnie's gotten that together yet.
No, that's
okay.
That's fine.
Right. Eventually, it'll be over there. Sometimes, it just takes some time. But Huntington, the flagship store. Yes.
Always worth the trip.
Half off Hero.
I kind of thought
this clown show and you'll get half off.
I thought about going today, actually.
You thought about it?
Yeah.
And then you just changed your mind?
It's a 45-minute drive.
It's a bit of time. Weren't you? I thought you were on the clock today, buddy. How are you going to go over there when you're on the clock?
Yeah, well, in between writing, yeah.
Oh, all right.
Time to go get a sandwich.
All right.
But then it was 45 minutes away. I didn't go.
I would have went. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Your Heroes of the Week, brought to you by the Blue Line Deli and Bagels, half off Hero. Say hi to Donnie when you stop by. He is a great man. So we move on here at Hockey Night in New York. What, you texting?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me, man?
I was taking a picture of one of the comments in the chat and sending it to someone.
Well, could you not have waited until the show was over?
No, because it's funnier.
It's not. It's so unprofessional. I mean, you leave the Islanders beat. You're covering basketball now. Now you think you can send texts during the show. This is a live show. It's a live show.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable.
It's what I always say every week.
This is what children do. See, this is why Brian Compton, Andrew Gross, myself, Arthur Staple all refer to this man as a child. Because, I mean, look at him. He's still clacking away on the keys.
Well, because I was talking to you, and I was letting you get your...
Put it down.
I was letting you get your thing out. Your speech or whatever you want to call that.
Spiel?
Your spiel. Your soapbox.
All sorts of miserable tonight, man, with the Tavares stuff. It's just unbelievable. There you go. Mel Armenia, 22. Christian, I'm not feeling the love today. I'm not either. I don't know why he showed up.
When do we ever show the love to each other? You literally started off the show by insulting me.
I don't know what you're talking about. I called you great things until I took it all back.
Then you
Called you great things. Maybe I will before the show's over. We'll see. And I won't take it back. We'll see.
No,
There's no guarantee.
I don't believe
There's no guarantee. No guarantee. All right. So before we get the questions brewing, I feel like there might have been a couple of guys who want to key on here. We know that Trotz was Trot's still on COVID protocol.
Right.
Do we know for sure if he's back tomorrow? You don't know. You don't cover the team anymore.
Wow. Okay. I was going to say, I believe there's a chance just going by when he went into protocol and the new 5-day rule that's gone into effect for the NHL. I would imagine there's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we'll find out when they address the media after morning skate tomorrow. They are scheduled to skate at 10:30.
Okay. And Pulock is still not close, it seems.
Which is interesting. It seems like things may have taken a little bit of a different turn than maybe the Islanders were expecting. And it didn't help that he also had to go into COVID protocol, which kind of slowed things down.
Well, at least that's, to look at it from a completely practical standpoint, at least it's out of the way. At least he's not going to come back healthy from his injury and then end up on protocol a week later, right? At least it's done. At least we now have that 90-day period where we don't have to worry about Pulock ending up on COVID protocol.
That is like when you look at what's gone on, and that is the very small silver lining that we've talked about in the past. I hope you looked at Thomas Panik's comment.
No, Thomas, no, yep, I'm with you there. We were thinking the same thing. But this is not an R-rated podcast.
Although Andrew dropping some salty language earlier.
Look, he was just speaking from the heart, man, and that's what we like here. We like passion.
We do,
right? He was just letting it all out, and I think that's fine. I was gonna say it to him, but we ended up going on to different topics, and I didn't want to,
extend the cut.
Right, exactly. But it's funny. I heard the tone of his voice talking about Josh Bailey is like the same tone I get from fellow Islander fans that I speak to about Josh Bailey. He's talking about being frustrated and everything. I'm like, man, this is real. This is for real. He's feeling it too. But anyway, go ahead. You were saying something important.
I was just saying that is the one benefit of all this happening. The numbers starting to downturn, and then the fact that the Islanders kind of don't have to worry about this for a while. So now, basically, they've knocked out everyone that they've needed to get COVID.
Right.
Now that won't be an issue, at least for the next 90 days or so.
And T-Boyle13 wants to know if he's done for the year. I have no reason to believe that. He's at least been skating. So it's just a
he's
little
skating
delayed.
on his own.
Yeah.
That's what's been coming out.
It's just a delayed return. Maybe they're playing it a little safer, or maybe he had a setback. It happens. But I'm sure he'll be back on the ice. It's just a little later than sooner to flip the cliche. So.
It is interesting, though, when you think about it, considering the importance of these next couple games, what his health status is at the moment. If he was a little bit closer to being healthy, would they be more in a position to be like, all right, let's just get him back out there because we need him?
Yeah.
Because that I think too is kind of a signifier of how serious maybe the injury was to Pulak, and how they're being a little bit more cautious instead of trying to rush him back to get him into the rotation or onto the ice, because they need him out there and they need every point they can get. So it is kind of an interesting tell a little bit too when you think about it that way.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point.
But I don't think he's done for the year.
No, I don't think so. Even though it feels like we're well over halfway through the season, we're still 12 games from the halfway. Oh, it's 11 games from the halfway point for the Islanders.
It feels like it's beyond halfway because they haven't played.
Games
have been going on.
We're
but the
into the middle of January. We're into the middle of January. You have most of the league approaching 41 games.
Yeah.
And the Islanders are just all the way in the back. We'll be there in a bit, guys.
They're approaching 30.
We're coming. Yeah, so, whatever. So, anyway, Barzal's point streak was extended in the Jersey game. 14 points through 9 games. Then it was ended yesterday, of course, because they were shut out against the Capitals. Talked a little bit earlier about how Wahlstrom and Bellows continue to look good. They're still playing well, so that's good. That might keep, what's his name again? Kyle Palmieri out of the lineup for a little longer. Number 21. And that's fine. I'm fine with
we
that.
have no cheeky nickname for him by accident. We have Nylanders.
Calmary?
Nah,
I guess it doesn't really.
It's got to happen organically.
We'll come up with
It's got to happen organically.
We'll figure it out.
We'll
stumble upon it.
We'll F something
by accident one day. Let's see. Parise, I think, is still playing very well. He had 2 assists in the game against the Devils. And this has kind of been a theme over the course of the season. Even when he wasn't putting up points, the guy busts his ass every night.
Yeah.
And that's why he's still been in the lineup. Some people raise his name where, who are we going to take out for the younger guys? I think Parise is a guy who's earned his stay. And it's nice to see that he's actually putting points on the board.
Yeah, I mean that was the one. I mean that was the big knock earlier in the season too, when he was trying very hard but not putting any points up.
Yes.
Now at least you're seeing some point production.
His
from
efforts
him.
are being rewarded.
There's some his efforts are being rewarded. On the flip side, I think when you look at Minnesota Wild fans and how they've seen Parise play on Long Island so far, they go, yeah, that looks about right.
Yeah.
Like what the Islanders got, what Zach Parise was advertised at, when he was in Minnesota the latter years of his career. Hardworking player, not going to put up the point production you need.
And that's pretty fine for a third liner. Now, granted, he has a history of being Zach Parise, but you want a guy who's going to skate hard, who's going to, muck and grind in the corners, get into the dirty areas, and put up the odd point now and then. Right. Now, do we want to see a little bit more out of him offensively? Yes.
I think you need to at a certain point, too.
Well, look,
you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole that you found yourself in.
It's got to be by committee, man. There's a lot of guys that got to get their stuff together. And, you see flashes of it now and then, like Josh Bailey Thursday against the Devils.
Yeah.
Oh, 2 points. Great. Goal on the power play.
Reverts back the other way.
And then everybody's pulling their hair out when the guy just refuses to shoot into an open net.
Yeah.
And again, it's just Josh Bailey of years past. I mean, we're trying to dissect the reason why this guy is reverted to old Josh Bailey, but I don't know. Hopefully, we see some more consistent New Jersey Devils game. Josh Bailey. We'll see. We got 52 games to worry about.
Still time to work out some of the issues.
Yes. And Zdeno Chara had a rough game yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
If you were listening to the fans sitting in front of us for most of the game,
they were not
happy with anything.
No, but particularly that man.
Yes.
Like, whenever he was near the puck, they did not have good things to say.
So so I've now gone to 2 games at UBS Arena as a spectator, and it's a much different experience when you're up top and the press level and when you're down, sitting in the seats and all that.
Sure,
it was a much different experience sitting in your section than the first game I had against the Bruins, and it was a lot more vocally unhappy fans.
There's
your section.
There's a lot of youthful fans in my area, and they like to let their voices be heard.
Yeah,
and they were not happy with Zdeno Chara. We said last week we thought he'd been playing better. He's a little quieter. His name not coming up as much, which means
positive.
Yeah, which is a positive thing. And yesterday was a little rough for him. A little slow to the puck, made some questionable decisions. Was he the reason why they lost? Of course not. But noticeable because it's just going to be a topic for this team because we're always going to be saying, well, Letty could have been there. Somebody else could have been there. Chara's there. So it's still a topic of note. And just to keep it on the defense real quick before we go into questions brewing, one guy we haven't talked about in the last couple of weeks, which might be because of how he's been playing, maybe a positive sign. But Salo, and the Salo now has gotten some more games in, and we kept talking about, is this a guy that's going to stay when Pulisic comes back? And I think he's been playing pretty well. Again, you run into that waiver situation, right, where you have guys that like Salo that can go down, you don't have to worry about it, you can get into games. If he's not going to be in the top 6, he shouldn't be here anyway, which is ultimately probably going to be the situation.
Right.
But I do like what I'm seeing out of him, and I think with more confidence, he's going to be a very good defenseman for this team because he's showing that he has the ability to play in this league, and I like what I see out of him so far.
Yeah, I think you look at his game, and the only real knock that I could even come up with, I think he plays well defensively. He's certainly going to make some of those rookie mistakes because that's just the nature of the beast, especially when you're in the league as your first season in North America and your first season in the NHL. There's going to be mistakes, but I think really the biggest knock continues to be just the hesitancy to shoot. But you can say that with literally everyone on the Islanders at the moment. So it's hard to really criticize him for that when everybody's doing the same thing.
You just criticize everybody.
Yeah, but I think that'll kind of come with time. I think he'll start to develop that confidence where he's going to shoot, because there were a couple times yesterday when we were watching that game that he had a couple open looks and he went for the pass instead of the shot there. Especially I want to say that's late second period and going into the third, where the Islanders picked up their play a little bit more and there were some more offensive opportunities. You still saw Salos seem to be a little bit more hesitant to put the puck on the net.
Yeah, and that'll come with time. I mean, we've literally been seeing that before our very eyes with Dobson, where he's been more willing to shoot now, more willing to take chances. Dobson.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, right, Nobson. I apologize. But yes, so hopefully Salos.
It's like calling Thomas Panik Richard. I'm like, I don't know who Richard Panik is.
You definitely don't know who Richard Panik is. You haven't since the season started. So what do you say we go into Questions Brewing?
I say, let's do it.
And now it's time for Questions Brewing. We still don't have a song for it yet, so I figured Okay, so time for Questions Brewing, brought to you by Oyster Bay Brewing Company and their delicious American lager. Christian, hopefully you did your job and you have some questions lined up for us.
I do. I've been keeping a running track of all the questions that have been brewing.
Fantastic.
Question brewing from Mike4652Co. Question brewing. Put Kyle Palmieri back in on right wing. Will Josh Bailey finally sit?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think so. A, I don't think Palmieri gets back in yet to begin with. And B, if he does get back in, I don't think it's for Josh Bailey. But I will say, it would not bother me. That's not me saying Bailey needs to come out, but I wouldn't mind having him see a game from the press box because of this inconsistency that we've been talking about. And because Bellows and Wahlstrom have been playing well. So let those guys keep working on their game. They're contributing to this team. Wouldn't mind seeing Bailey sit, but no, I don't think that's what happens.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think if anything, it would be, unfortunately, because Kiefer's been playing so well, it'd be someone like a Bellows or someone like that would be coming out of the lineup. And, probably wouldn't be the thing that would make Islander fans too happy. Josh Bailey, I think at this point, there's a lot of evidence to say that it's time for him to sit and watch a couple games from up top and kind of get his act together for...
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't think you're right. I don't think it's coming, which is it is what as Andrew said, it is what it is.
Right. And the truth is, Christian, they lost yesterday, so wouldn't shock me if Palmieri did get in for Bellows or Wahlstrom. Yeah. Just to try something new, because the Islanders do that.
Yeah. I am gonna skip T-Boyle 13's first question because it's a pretty big doozy. And so I'll save it for the last.
Okay. Hey, all right.
Joey Pickles 30 asking, question Bruin, when does the NHL force Canadian teams to play their home games in a neutral U.S. city? That would still get the home gates.
That is the logistics that would have to go into that. I mean, that's not something you can just plan overnight. So I don't think there's any chance. I mean, unless there's just some widespread shutdown and they're able to... I don't even know if it's worth getting too in depth on it, because I just don't think it's feasible.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that people have to understand with this, that everyone is expecting the COVID wave that's happening to go similar to what happened in South Africa. And just to kind of make this short, basically what happened is cases went high, and like we saw over the last month or so, and then they dropped almost instantaneously, like we're seeing right now. And so the expectation is that it will follow a similar rate where cases are going to go really high, like they have, and then they're going to come back down, like we're seeing right now. And I think Canada is sort of under the same impression. So that would mean February or March you're going to see games rescheduled. I imagine
which they're kicking the can down the curb.
Right. I imagine that you're going to see the season extended at some point down the line where I think they're going to play 82 games. I don't think they're going to shorten the season, but I think that you'll see those games pushed. You'll see the season pushed back and the playoffs pushed back.
If there's any more major delays, I think that will put us in the territory of having to shorten the season.
Under the scenario that we're in right now,
they'll probably be able to squeeze it in.
Yeah. My other point about why they're not going to do that, why they're not going to have Canadian teams play home games in neutral U.S. cities, is that is a giant undertaking for the league. You have to now think about 7 teams and finding 7 different neutral sites, or maybe one, depending on where you're going, where it's economically feasible for this to happen. The available dates are there for this to happen. And you have to get the teams now to say to their season ticket holders, listen, you can't come to this game now.
Right.
And I don't know what the financial obligation would be to them at that point, because then you're probably having to return some sort of money for the season tickets to see the games that they didn't get to see.
Of course.
So you go to it's not like the Raptors did last year where they just were like, we'll set up shop in Tampa Bay and people are going to show up and it's fine because it's one team.
Or just flip the script and let's say it was the U.S. that was having this situation. Right. You're an Islanders season ticket holder, and then the Islanders say to you, look, we can either reschedule the games for later in the season so you can still go to them and enjoy them, or you can just not watch them at all so we can play the games up in Canada. I don't think a lot of fans would go for that. So, yeah, it's just the logistics just aren't there.
I understand the frustration of people wanting to see, especially in the United States, saying they just got to play these games. I don't know why they keep. There's a lot of money at stake for both the players and ownership.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other factors too, including the season ticket holders in those respective cities. But I think that answers most of Joey's question. T-Boyle 13 question, Bruin. Do you feel if the Islanders played a regular season without breaks, they would be a playoff team?
Okay, so we kind of alluded to this earlier. It's tough to say. It's tough to say. I mean, do I think that they could be? Yes, of course. Mm-hmm. And let me just go, maybe this is a little, rose-tinted glasses here, but yeah, I do think they would be a playoff team. I think that everything that factored in to start this season out really just, anything that could go wrong did go wrong. It was Murphy's Law. And it really was. Because I think if they, everybody knew and expected the 13-game road trip. So, yes, is it in and of itself an excuse? Sure. But everybody knew coming in that that's what this was going to be. This season was going to be. And
it's going to be chaos.
And we talked about it earlier. They got out of it essentially at 500, which is fine. You're happy with that, right? But it's all the chaos that came after.
Yeah.
That really is, I think, what just kind of started to set some things on fire a little bit here, is that they weren't able to come back from that and get to any sort of normality or any sort of recovery. Where as soon as they get back, half their team is on COVID. The NHL is still at a point where they're trying to get teams to play. Right? And the Islanders, as well as a couple other teams, end up falling victim to that. And they're playing the Bridgeport Islanders in some very important games where, some of those were the games that Andrew were referring to where they got smoked by teams like the Rangers 4-1 and whatever the case may be.
That Ranger game, it was the New York Rangers versus the Bridgeport Islanders. That game should never have happened.
Right.
That was again, one of those games where we were sitting in the press box going, is this going to be canceled?
Right. So is it reasonable to say that this would be the same team and the same performance if all this stuff didn't happen? And I would have to think no. I think this team would be much more competitive. Would they be at the top of the Metro? Hard to say because of the struggles that they've had, right? But I certainly think that they would be in the playoff mix because they just had one domino fall after another into just terrible territory. And now we might just be getting into some normalcy here, but the after effect of that is now they got to play every other night now.
Right.
They got to play all these games just to make them up. So it's great that they have them left to play. They have points on the table. There's a chance for them to come back.
Easy.
But they also have to play their asses off. And they are not the youngest team in the league. In fact, they are on the other end of that spectrum. So are their old legs going to catch up to them as well? It's just not an ideal situation. So again, I don't tend to do this at all, but long-winded answer to your question is, I think they would be a playoff team if all these different factors didn't go against them. Yeah.
Question, bro. I have to move to my phone now because my computer's about to die. So before you yell at me for having my phone in my hand.
All right.
A question brewing also from T. Boyle, and I believe we kind of talked about this as well, was the idea of who sits when Ryan Pulock returns. It's
probably going to be Salo.
Salo.
Yeah. Is Aho able to play now? He's off of COVID, right? He's not hurt. Aho is available. He's with the team. He's just not playing.
Yeah.
So I think
he's on the taxi squad, I think.
That might be it.
Yeah.
So he probably stays as the extra defenseman. And if we'll see here, I don't know. Here's the thing. If they can operate with a taxi squad, they may not really have to send Salo down.
Right. No,
and they might still be
He's
able
not
to,
talking about sending him down. He's talking about who's coming out of the
No,
lineup.
no, I know. I mean, I'm just trying to think if maybe because that waiver issue isn't there, they may be more inclined to keep Salo in the lineup. Because they're not forced to send somebody down. It's basically what I'm getting at. So maybe you finally do get to see Zdeno Chara sit for a game because they're not forced to bump a guy out.
But they haven't been, to me, they haven't seemed willing to take Zdeno out of the lineup.
No, they haven't.
And so I don't really foresee that changing even with Ryan Pulock coming back in, because I think when you have a healthy lineup, everyone healthy, I think Barry Trotz or whoever is still kind of relying on that veteran presence, and as he said multiple times, they kind of have that track record.
Yeah. So it's probably Salo, T. Boyle, but maybe the fact that they have the taxi squad there, maybe we're surprised, and maybe he stays in and Chara sits for a game. But longer term, Salo's probably the guy anyway.
Melormino 22 asking question, Bruin. Do you think Trotz starts riding the hot goalie, or do you think he keeps the rotation?
Well, so far through these two games, obviously they went one guy and then the other guy. And I think Trotz is going to see who gets his footing, see who maybe goes on a run, and maybe he goes with the hot hand at that point. I think he's kind of waiting to see who that guy is going to be. I would look, you got back-to-backs tomorrow and Tuesday, so you're going to see both goalies. You're probably going to see Sorokin tomorrow. You'll probably see Varlamov Tuesday. Then you have back-to-backs Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
And maybe you see if Sorokin ends up being the better performer, you probably see him against the Leafs, and then you see Varlamov against the Coyotes on Friday. So they're almost forced to go 50-50 right now.
And I think they kind of have to, because even after this week, the schedule is so condensed. The Islanders, I feel like they're playing almost every other day. There's a ton of back-to-backs. They really no room to ride one goal or the other. You kind of have to deploy that rotation.
But if they do get to a point in the schedule where they actually can ride a goalie, warranting that he's actually winning,
right,
then I do think Barry will do that. I do think he'll play that goalie more often than the other guy if he starts rattling off a couple of wins. But the schedule just has to even allow for that to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think more or less it's going to be the rotation that we've seen so far, with Varley and Sorokin healthy, and you're seeing Varlamov get more into a rhythm.
No, he looks much better.
But that's always been his MO, something we've always talked about in the past, where he is a guy that needs that playing time to kind of be at his peak level. So I think it bodes well for the Islanders to kind of have that rotation and not rely on just one goaltender, because if you're going to make that playoff push and you're going to make the playoffs, theoretically, you're going to need both of those guys at their peak.
Sure.
Question brewing from Thomas Panic. He asks, question brewing, how does Danger Zarnik look? Is it just me, or is he adding way more jump than you expected?
Yeah, he's looked good. Is there room for him long term? Probably not. But when somebody goes down, I got no problem coming in and playing in the bottom six. I think he's looked well. And he clicked a little bit with Bellows and Wallstrom. He put some points up. They had some nice goals over the course of the last couple of weeks. So I'm pleasantly surprised by Zarnik. But when this team's healthy, it's a little too deep for a guy like him to get into the lineup.
Yeah. I'm going to go to the next one. Also, Marilyn Mania asking question, Bruin. Not sure if you saw the report earlier that John Carlson played the game while waiting for his COVID test, and today is out testing positive. How is that fair? Question mark. Should the teams doing this be fined?
You want to take this one?
So I know the report is out there, and I know obviously he tested positive. What I don't fully know is the legality of what basically the Capitals did. I was always under the assumption and under the presumption that if they were test inclusive or they were still waiting for tests, that those guys couldn't play. Basically, they would be considered in in COVID protocol. I'm not really sure. I saw the report, not 100% sure what fully transpired there. So it's tough to give it an accurate answer without sort of speculating a lot.
That is interesting, and that is a very fair question. And you would think that they're not going to allow a guy to touch the ice or go near the bench until they get a result on the test. So, I mean, that just seems something that would just simply be part of the protocol, right? Like, you can't play until we know if you're negative, right? So how did he...
And that was always my interpretation of how these things were going.
So how is he able to enter the locker room, get on the bench, step out on the ice, and play this game without getting the results of his test? I mean, I guess maybe I'd like to read the article to see
what sort of
context we might be missing out on, if there is any more context to be seen.
Let's see. I'm trying
but it definitely doesn't sound good. It definitely, I mean, because obviously that puts everybody involved at risk on both teams. If he went out there and played with an undetermined test result, and it's going to be terrible if in the next couple of days we find out there is an outbreak between some players or some members of the staff of either team. So that's obviously an awful look. But I just want to know why he was able to go out there and play, without getting the result. Maybe there's an answer the league has. Maybe there's an answer the Capitals have for us that we haven't seen yet. I don't know. Should they be fined? I mean, it's not a terrible question if they bucked some kind of protocol they were supposed to be following, but it seems like the league isn't that forthcoming with what with what the rules are, right? We don't know.
Yeah, but that's the thing. And that's been, I think, everyone's frustration is that they almost seem to change every other day, every other week, and with every other team. So that has always been. Yeah, so it was Samantha Pell from the Washington Post.
Okay.
She was the one that tweeted out, Carlson was late to warm-ups yesterday at the Islanders after he was waiting for test results. He ultimately played. He's now unavailable today. Now, they could have come – now, doesn't say that the test results didn't come back and that he was negative or positive, so maybe the test results came back and he still was testing negative the other day. And that's maybe where the clarification needs to be made, because – Carlson was late to warm-ups yesterday after he was waiting for test results. He ultimately played. So what I take from that tweet is that he tested. The test results didn't come back till maybe mid-warm-ups. He was good to go then, and then he tested positive today on a second round of testing.
But
I don't know. I'm speculating.
So that sounds to me like there wasn't a test result hanging in the balance, and they just said, get out there, kiddo. Right?
Right.
Okay.
Because it's, just for the context, Carlson was late to warm-ups yesterday at the Islanders after he was waiting for his test result. Doesn't say that they didn't come in. Doesn't say that they came back positive or negative. Just said he was waiting for test results, which is why he was late to warm-ups.
So then we're supposed to assume that result was negative.
Yes.
How else does he get on the ice?
I think that, yeah.
It must have been negative, and then he tested positive today.
Right.
That must be the
That's
situation.
what I think
That must be the
place.
situation.
So, because I feel like that would have been a bigger story if that was the case. But there we go. So we settled that. We figured that out. Samantha Pell from the Washington Post was the one that tweeted that out. Finally, this is the last question, Bruin, that I have.
Is that the one from T. Boyle
yes,
that you
it
saved?
Is.
Okay.
T. Boyle, question Bruin. It's a doozy. I hope you didn't see it in the chat.
I did not.
I have heard that Connor McDavid is fed up with Edmonton and will ask for a trade very soon. Do the Islanders have this cap space to take on his contract? And also, what would the Islanders have to give up to acquire their best player in hockey?
Is he fed up with the Edmonton Oilers? Do we know? Do we know? This is just
I mean,
we could play fantasy hockey though.
Yeah, sure. NHL 23. Let's go.
All right.
Let's see. Barry Trotz would have to be involved in the trade.
Oh man,
Wallstrom would be in that conversation.
I mean, you could fit him under the cap because of everything you have to send back for the guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that might actually be. This is confirmed. Okay, we'll take your word for it.
Again, but we're playing because there's no. I'm going to put this. I'm going to put this more delicately than we put for Maddie, Usher Maddie. When we dismissed his Washington Capitals Alexander Ovechkin take, which he has never let us forget.
No, yeah,
including his video message to us last week after last week's show about your dismissal of Tom Petty.
Yes, he was not happy with that. He was not. Great. I love the videos, Matty. Keep them coming. I love the video responses. They are pretty damn funny. I have to say,
WWE-esque. We love it. But I just think that it's a pipe dream for a lot of reasons. It would take a lot of cap movement. I know the Islanders have a lot of space, but I mean, you have to think about cap space for this year, for next year.
Well, they don't have a lot of space now, but I'm assuming they would based on who they'd have to send back. I mean,
right.
And again, it would be a king's ransom.
About that. I can't look. I was going to look up his contract, what the terms were for, but yeah, it would be a king's
it's
ransom.
A lot of money. And look, don't be surprised if Matt Barzal has to go the other way.
Yeah.
He probably starts with him.
Yeah.
You know,
Matt Barzal.
If Lou Lamoriello can figure out a way to make a deal for that guy without sending him, great.
Wahlstrom will be in that deal. I think you'd probably look at a defenseman, a couple draft pay. Like this is a trade of mega proportion.
Yeah, I mean, basically, almost all your top, players are on the table.
Yeah.
Not to say they're all in the deal, but I mean, at least one first rounder, probably more. You're right,
Yeah.
And then you're talking. You don't know how much they want as far as prospects go and as far as, actual veteran players and stuff like that. But it's going to, I honestly, Tom, I don't even know where to start with that.
I would not get your hopes up.
Well, that aside, but I honestly don't know what the proper roadmap to a Islanders Connor McDavid trade would be. And I almost feel like I'd be wasting people's time trying to come up with that. Yeah. I mean, it's like, can you bring up the Gretzky trade?
Yeah, right.
And just try to come up with equivalents for
Right.
what went the other way for Gretzky. And I don't remember everybody who went in that deal, but I mean, I think there was money too, which you can't deal now. I think they actually literally sent money to Edmonton. So, I mean, it would be a lot. And then at the end of the day, you ask yourself, is it even worth it? And again, look, I will take Connor McDavid on my team. Anybody would take him. He's absolutely hands down the best player in this league. There's no doubt. Would I love to see him in an Islander uniform? No question about it.
Yeah, I think every person who's an Islander fan
I guess
would.
you just wonder because you know what example pops into my head?
Yeah.
You look at and obviously Eric Lindros isn't Wayne Gretzky and he isn't Connor McDavid. But look at what that did for the Colorado Avalanche when Quebec got that massive haul for Eric Lindros, right? They had that huge deal for Lindros that brought in Forsberg. It brought in a ton of guys that ended up being a perennial Stanley Cup contender.
But they won the cup.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Not only did they win a couple of cups in 96 and 2001, but they were a perennial contender.
Got Patrick Roy's cup.
And that Eric Lindros deal had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's fun to think about. It's fun to talk about, but I don't even know where to start. What do you give up for Connor McDavid? Everything.
UBS Arena,
like you said, Barry Trotz.
Lou Lamoriello is probably in the deal himself.
He might be too. Yeah. I don't know. It's fun to think about. I mean, it would be nice to have a generational star on your team because what is that like? Because I mean, even the Trottiers, the Bossy. I mean, Bossy, I guess you would say was a generational scorer.
Right, yeah.
But
one of the greatest pure goal scorers ever played.
Right, but when you talk about the Ovechkins, the Crosbys, the McDavids, the Matthews, the Gretzkys, it would be fun to have one of those guys on your team.
It's a
just to see what that's
special
like.
time to have someone like that. You know what I mean? Like it's you.
And the Penguins, man, Lemieux, Crosby. I mean, those guys are just spoiled. And then the Oilers too. What is it with these two franchises? Getting the biggest stars in the last 40 years or whatever it is, 30, 40 years.
Oilers still have the same amount of cups that the Islanders do in the last 10 years with their generational players.
Well, the Oilers
they've also
have
managed
completely wasted a lot of Connor McDavid's career here without being able to get things together.
They've gone and missed and failed on so many high draft picks that you just for the generational player that they got in Connor McDavid, they failed and whiffed on a number of other guys that were in that boat.
Yeah, and even if Connor McDavid did want out, doesn't mean he's going to get out.
All right.
Thomas Panik says if the Oilers trade McDavid, they should be stripped of their franchise. It's not unreasonable.
Pretty sure that's the same way they felt back in the 80s when they traded Gretzky.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. Bernie Nichols, some goon, and money for Gretzky. Maybe that's all it was, Jody. You might be right.
I think it was a lot of money.
I don't remember.
It was a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's why
you can't trade money these days.
That's why
you
the
can
30
trade cap space. You can't trade money.
That's why the 30 for 30 was called King's Ransom.
There you go.
I mean, I think.
There you
I
go.
don't know, I'm kind of just making that up.
Yeah, I mean, comparatively, who knows? I mean, Eric Lindros might have gotten a bigger haul in his trade than Wayne Gretzky did, truth be told. I mean, I don't remember exactly, again, everybody who went which way, but I just remember it was a haul, and Forsberg was a part of it. And Forsberg ended up having a better career than Lindros.
Right.
Forget about the rest of the guys in the deal, So, anyway, that was fun, T-Boyle. We appreciate the question, as always, and I think that's it, right?
That's all I had.
Well, I think that
I can't look at my computer anymore. It died.
Yeah, because, I mean, you don't even know how to prepare for a show. You don't charge your laptop before the show. I mean,
it was
unbelievable.
It was
unbelievable.
It was on 80%. It was on 80%. It should have
cool,
made the show. It should have made it
80%. It's time for a new laptop or a new battery. My goodness.
It's time for a new
All right,
laptop.
we're going to start a GoFundMe. Get Christian a new laptop.
Yeah, please.
New
new laptop. That'd be great. Please and thank you.
All right, folks.
I won't ever mention the name again.
All right.
I'll never say anything about that.
Well, folks, it's been a fun one, but it's time to wrap it up. As always, want to thank you all for joining us here on your Sunday night, hanging with us at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. Always a pleasure. Love the chat. Love you getting the questions in. It is always a blast. A huge thanks to Andrew Gross of Newsday for joining us and the Island Ice podcast. And, of course, a huge thanks to our sponsors, starting with RJ Daniels American Bar and Grill, located at 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center. The best place to catch the Isles when you can't make it to the game. And don't just go for the Isles. They have live music, comedy nights, trivia, a late-night bar scene. They have it all. Huge thanks to Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, as well as East Islip, as well as UBS Arena. They're an official partner of the New York Islanders and the greatest deli around. Check out the menu at BlueLineDeli.com for their great selections and hockey-themed heroes. And a big thanks to Tide Technology, a voice-over IP company providing phone services for businesses across the country. Check them out at TideTechnology.com for all your telecom needs, or give them a call at 516-856-7800 to get 3 free months of service. And a huge thanks to Oyster Bay Brewing Company, located at 36 Audrey Avenue in Oyster Bay. You can order their great beers and merchandise at oysterbaybrewing.com for curbside pickup, local delivery, or shipping anywhere in New York. And don't forget, you can get 15% off with coupon code HNINY. It's getting cold out there. Why don't you place an order for some shipping, for some local delivery at oysterbaybrewing.com. Huge thanks once again to all of you. Huge thanks to Christian Arnold for being here and bringing his shoddy laptop.
Wow. I thought you were going to try and say something nice to me.
I did. I said thanks for being here. You're a great man, Christian. I love having you a part of the show, even though you're texting and sending messages and stuff, all the time. Even though you're completely unprofessional. But it's great having you here. You do a great job. You do a great job. The Nets are lucky to have you.
Said with such sincerity.
The Nets are lucky to have you.
Wow.
And if you enjoy, please rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. Let everybody know the music's going to end. Doesn't matter. We're going to keep going here. Follow Christian at C_Arnold01. No, it's that one. There you go. At 01 on Twitter. Follow myself at Shawnee Hockey. That's the wrong one. Follow the show at Hockey Night NY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We love you all. We'll see you next week. Go Islanders. Until next time, have a great rest of your Sunday night. Have a great rest of your Sunday night. We'll see you next time.
We need to go home.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.